120 seconds. 110 seconds. 100 seconds. 90 seconds. 80 seconds. 70 seconds. 60 seconds. 50 seconds. 40 seconds. 30 seconds. 20 seconds. 10 seconds.
My name's McCauley.
I'm Nyesha McCauley, and you're watching AccessTV.org.
All right, my friends, once again, it is indeed time to get our talk on. It's Morning Talk with me, your host, McCauley, along with the champions of talk. This morning, talk champion in the house is none other than Jonathan Small. Good morning, Jonathan. How are you doing?
Doing fine, and you, Stan. It's a pleasure to be back here again once a week.
I'm doing good. How was your weekend?
Weekend was nice. I mean, you can't ask for a better weekend. Seemed like everybody, again, was out on the weekend. I know yesterday was Mother's Day, but it just seemed like everybody was just enjoying themselves for the weekend, so that's a good sign, I think.
Do anything special for Mother's Day?
You mean me directly, or just mother, present, or whatever?
Mother, present, you?
Just a present. You know, I didn't get involved in anything, particular. It's like sometimes Mother's Day, people it's a one day that stands out, like Christmas and other holidays, and it's a big deal, don't get me wrong, but sometimes you just try to get it out the way. It's figuring what you're going to buy the person, your spouse or your sister or your mother, and you just try to get that done. I'm a last minute person anyway, Stan. I don't buy stuff ahead of time. I always wait to the last day or two. But always show your appreciation, giving your mother something and everything. Did you do anything particular with your wife? No, you just
it's interesting because her mother, her sisters, it was like a mother's get together. So they had like a mother's get together.
Oh, okay.
So I'm not a mom. So I was here with the girls.
Oh, okay.
So we all had quality screen time.
Yeah. All right. To do that.
Yeah, we're not really a big holiday celebrating type folk.
Right.
Yeah, so every day is Mother's Day.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Every day is Christmas. Every day is Father's Day. Every day is your birthday. So
every day.
Treat every day like it's that special day.
Right.
Then when the special days come, they're just regular days.
Yeah, but you know how people is. Mothers or people in general. When Mother's Day come, days come.
Some people go all out. They get highly offended if you don't, roll out the red carpet at the bed. They get out the bed, open the door. Should be like, it's your birthday.
Yeah.
One of those kind of things.
I know it's kind of early, but some people don't like celebrating Christmas. I don't know how that's changed society, but I think some people say it's overly commercialized.
Mm-hmm. Pull that mic up so you.
Black Friday, Thanksgiving is an overly commercialized day. Mm-hmm. But it's just a tradition, I guess, that the country has. Thanksgiving, Christmas. Independence Day is gonna be another big day.
Yeah, traditions die hard. They give you, I don't know. We're not a big days fan. That's all. I shouldn't say fan. Well, fan is short for fanatic. We're not fanatical when it comes to special days.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
So it's every day is special.
Right.
Yeah.
Well,
except Super Bowl Sunday.
Yeah.
Now in our household, everything stops for Super Bowl because that's my wife's day.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, that's everybody's. A lot of people.
Well, in this household, we things stop when the season starts.
Right.
She's a football fan.
And she's very common. A lot of people take the NFL serious. When that Sunday comes,
we don't do anything.
We
shift shopping. Everything stops on Sunday.
And Nyesha's more the NFL fan than
she's
you.
the NFL fan, right? I watch football because of my wife.
Okay. But you must start to get into it a little bit, though, even though you don't have a main team anymore. You don't really stick out.
No, I didn't have a main team before, but, I grew into the Patriots because she was a big Patriots fan because, Tom Brady and,
And then your father likes Philadelphia. Well,
Eagles.
you're from Philadelphia area, so, you don't have no sentimental feelings for the Eagles?
No. Mm-mm. I don't get into all that.
You don't get into all that? Oh, okay.
It's a game.
Yeah. Well, I take my teams in the NFL serious.
Oh, no, I know because we have this conversation every Monday.
Right.
After Sunday. So, yeah, you 100% in. However, it is
Monday.
It is Monday, which means we always have a special guest. So our special guest joining us today, Jonathan always finds great guests from somewhere around the country and even around the world to join us and share their wisdom and knowledge with us. So today, of course, is no different, and I can't wait to hear and get into the conversation. So Jonathan, my friend, you have the floor.
Well, good morning to people out there on Morning Talk Live with Jay Stan McCauley Talk Show. This morning we have a guest who is doing tremendous things in the city of Baltimore. He has been a tremendous individual who's turned his life around, and he really is trying to make a big difference in many different other people's lives as well. The guest this morning on Morning Talk Live with Jay Stan McCauley Talk Show, he is a behavioral specialist, motivational speaker, no other than Brendan Lee. Good morning, Brendan. How are you doing?
I'm great. How are you?
Doing fine, and you. It's a pleasure to have you on the program this morning. And Brendan, could you kind of let people know a little bit about yourself and background briefly before we get into our main topic of discussion?
Well, I guess I'm just here, because of who I used to be and who I am now.
Mm-hmm.
And, who I used to be, I was a lost soul looking for guidance. And I grew up that doing wrong was considered doing right, and doing right was considered doing wrong. So a lot of choices that I made as a young age in the streets, I got credit for it, But now that I'm older, I realize that they were wrong. So now, what I do now is I try to spend the rest of my life by giving back to my community. So right now I run a drug treatment facility. It's called Heaven's Place. I have about 80 something clients there where we help recover from drugs. I also have a mentor program called Heart to Heart, where I work with young people and their families to build their relationships back with each other as well. And I'm also a community activist. So you may see me walking down the street with a lot of people, holding up Black Lives Matter signs and saying "Stop the Violence." I lead some of the largest "Stop the Violence" rallies in the city of Baltimore. So it's a lot. That I'm doing here in Baltimore. Just really trying to keep my foot on the pedal and make a difference in the city.
Well, Brendan, when you was involved with the things that you used to do, did you realize the type of destruction and damage that you was doing to yourself and even to, I guess, the city of Baltimore to some degree? Or did you just was kind of blocking it out, or was you ignorant to the fact? I mean, kind of break down exactly when you were doing things that you're not proud of. Then we all can make that claim. But how did it really make you feel, and how did you get yourself into this particular situation, if you don't mind me asking?
I don't mind you asking. So you know how they say if you knew better, you do better?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I just didn't know any better. I was raised since a young age to that doing wrong was considered doing right, and doing right was considered doing wrong. So, for example, we used to brag about being in the trap. The trap, when we say the trap, that means on the block, outside on your street corner. We would brag about those things. We would brag about having multiple women, because where I come from, having multiple women gave you credibility that you were a man. Where I come from, being outside on the street corner, representing your hood, gave you credibility that you were from a certain block that was known to be thorough or tough. Where I come from, we were taught, if the teachers say you're the bad kid in the school, you're pretty much the man. If you get locked up and you come home from jail, you get praised as if you came as if you graduated from college. So people will praise you. Oh man, BJ just came home. You need anything? You need some food? You need some clothes? So where I come from, we were taught. It was embedded in us indirectly that this, that you can't snitch. Stop snitching. If you tell something that you seen, it was a violation of the streets. So we just grew up on different rules. So I just didn't know any other rule but that way. So if you would have asked me, 20 something years ago, who did I want to be when I grew up? I would have said I want to be the biggest drug dealer in Baltimore City, because that was the way that I was raised. And that's what got me by in life, those survival skills. But what I realize now is you have to be willing to grow and change as you get older, because what you will realize is those same survival skills that helped you get to a certain point could be the same thing that blocked you from getting to a certain point as well, if you decide to not change. And I would never used to wear a tie back in the day. So it's just pretty much basically the way that I grew up. It was embedded in me at a young age that this was the right thing to do. This, selling drugs, you make money and you provide for your family. It wasn't taught to us that selling drugs, you're killing your community and you're tearing down your community. So I didn't know any better.
Well, Brendan, I mean, if you wanted, let's say you had some type of insight, or another individual growing up in Baltimore would have some type of insight that you don't want to get involved in the trap. You don't want to be dealing drugs. You don't want to be gangbanging. You don't want to be a womanizer. You want to be a self-sufficient person, a law-abiding citizen. You wanted to stand out with class, get good grades in school. If you wanted it to do that growing up in, I don't know if you're in West Baltimore, East Baltimore, but if you wanted to do it in particularly Baltimore, how would you be looked at? I mean, what type of response would you be getting from the people in Baltimore if you're trying to do the right thing?
Well, it depends, because some people was able to get by by doing the right things, by utilizing sports. So you would have a guy like myself that, may tell someone that was utilizing sports like, hey, go ahead, this ain't for you. Go ahead, get out the corner, go ahead and chase your dream with sports. Those type of people made it, they were all right. They still had certain ways, the basketball, football, jocks guys, they still was doing certain things like, dealing with the women and fighting and stuff like that. But they didn't have to be as gritty and as grimy as I was. I was kind of more on the gritty, grimy side than those guys. So those guys kind of made it past for their skill level in sports, because it was taught to us indirectly that if you can't rap or dribble a ball, then you're going to be stuck in the trap. And when I say the trap, being so young and dumb, I used to rap that, and I say, yeah, I'm trapped and I'm in the trap, not understanding that I'm exactly doing exactly what the word is, trap. I'm trapped, and I didn't have the right mind capacity to understand that. Yes, as I'm screaming out, I'm in the trap, and I'm celebrating I'm in the trap. I don't understand that. Yes, I really am in a trap to go to jail, a trap to die. I didn't have that knowledge back then. So I was to say, you might make it being that type of straight, narrow person if you utilize sports or rapping or something like that, or you just was a really quiet kid that just, stayed to yourself. But, that wasn't the way that I was raised. I was raised that you got to be gritty. You got to be able to fight. You got to be able to survive. You got to be able to, you have to be heartless out here, because you can't have no heart when you're doing the things that we were doing.
Yes, and unfortunately, many of these things are still continuing to take place in Baltimore. And it seems like, to me, the juveniles are really being hit hard. I mean, I've been paying attention over the past couple of weeks. I think it's going to be a curfew that the mayor in Baltimore is going to implement. I think it's going to be around Memorial Day, but you can kind of clarify it. And do you think a curfew is actually needed right now in Baltimore?
No, I don't think a curfew is going to do nothing, because the kids are going to break the curfew. So it really doesn't matter if it's set or not. It's just going to be broken. So it doesn't really matter. What I would like to see happen is more people like myself get people behind me and get funding behind us, so that we can really do the work that is called for us to do. We're really the front line of people, but we don't get we may get the recognition. We may get, the television shows, or you may see us on the news, or, stuff like that. But we don't really get the funding to do the work that we really need to do. So we're kind of left doing, changing lives on a smaller spectrum versus the larger spectrum, where people are getting money out here in Baltimore, and they're not really making any true impact for the youth. And when I mean true impact, they may open up a recreation center and allow the kids to play basketball or play football, but when those kids leave, they don't know anything about themselves. They don't know anything about who they are as a Black person. What I mean by that is, it's an African word called Sankofa, which means flying forward while looking backwards. And a lot of our kids are just flying without having any idea what an air traffic control pilot is. So we all know a tree can't grow without its roots. So we need to have programs in place like the ones that I have. Is really teaching you who you are, where you come from, who's really changing the mindset of all the things that was taught to me, breaking all those chains off of your mind, so that way we can understand that everything that we're being taught indirectly is wrong, and we need to be woken up a lot sooner before you get shot like I did. I was shot 5 times from being in the street. And when I tell a lot of kids, when I speak to them, I tell you this, my story, so you can learn from it, not for you to mimic me and think that you're going to have the same success rate. Because what happened when I got shot 5 times, and then God, he put a karma, and my life continued. But what happened to a lot of my friends, they got shot, and then God put a period, and that was the end of their story. So I just say that to say, I want to reach the kids before something drastic happen that changes their life. Because if no one like myself is able to teach you, and for you to change, the streets will definitely humble you, and the streets will definitely make sure you have a rude awakening.
Well, Brendan, is the same thing that was causing the violence when you were out there, let's say 20 years ago, is the same pattern continuing today? I mean, the same is the same reasons why guys are out there gangbanging, beefing with people. It's even, I heard just recently a 12-year-old boy got killed in Baltimore, and another teenager, I believe, was involved in the crime. So is the same common problems again that happened 20 years ago before then continuing today, or is it something a little bit different that you think is causing the spurt of gun violence, particularly with the juveniles right now in Baltimore?
Nah, to me, I see the same thing. I see the same exact thing, and it was set up for us. I feel like it's set up that way so that we can continue to be trapped and stay in the trap, where we're gonna go to jail or die. So I don't see anything different. The same. We still don't have the same people that's really out there on the front line. You get the television time, you get some maybe some awards sometimes, but you don't really get the funding that you need or the back that you need to really make a difference in the city. And you don't. It's the same cycle, just repeating itself over and over and over. Everything is the same. I don't see any difference. People say, "Whoa, the kids are getting worse these days than they was when we were growing up." I don't see that. I see the same stuff that we did growing up, the same stuff that the kids are doing.
Well, is the response on how people are trying to deal with some solutions, are they the same, or is there any difference in that area?
I would say it's the same. I would say it's the same. I don't see any difference. I see everybody. I think the only difference now is social media is out. So now people are doing a lot more pretending that they're doing the work. So you'll have somebody say, "Hey, I work with 90-something drug addicts, to help them recover and get off of drugs." And then when you meet them in person, you realize that they don't have they don't really work with 90-something drug addicts. So I think now that the social media is out, it's a lot more pretending of people pretending who they are than actually being authentic and being their real selves. Because no one cares about the truth if the lie is more entertaining.
Stan, let me kind of bring you into this, and I'll ask you a question if you can kind of tie it into our subject. I remember a long time ago, Tom Pope this was probably around the time of the Million Man March, and he made a comment that, okay, regardless whether, let's say, my grandfather was in prison. He was a criminal. My father was in prison. He was a criminal. It got to stop with me. If I'm a single mom and my mother is on welfare, Hug mother was on welfare, I got to make a decision that I don't want to be another statistic. Is it really that simple to make your mind up and saying, just because it's been a tradition of doing wrong or just falling into a predicament, that once you make your mind up, you can really change and go a different direction?
Well,
No, I think you really need some type of mentor to help you out. I think what's going to really make a difference and change is exposure.
Mm-hmm.
Luckily, I've had some great mentors. I've had Dr. Ted Sutton,
Mm-hmm.
who exposed me to traveling. The first time I got on a plane, I was with my godfather, Dr. Ted Sutton, who he's seen something in me that I didn't see in myself. I had a great woman named Rhonda Ricketta, who hired me as a kindergarten teacher, and gave me a chance at the age of 19 years old. I had just got out of jail. And, she believed in me. She saw something in me that I didn't see in myself. So I think that we just need enough caring adults to hold our children's hands and teach them something different. I believe that at least every young man that I meet, no matter how dangerous or heartless they appear to be, when I meet them, they just need guidance. And I remember sitting down with the most solidest gangster, I go to schools and I tell them, give me 3 of your quote unquote worst kids out of every class. That's the ones I want to work with. And I sit down with them and I teach them how to tie ties, and they're so excited. And I teach them about business and how to run business. I teach them back about their Black history and where they come from. And they're so involved. So I think that we need enough caring adults to not just talk about our children, but step up and really teach them something different. Because right now, our parents and our adults are failing the kids. They're smoking weed with the kids. They're just letting the kids raise themselves or go in a room and watch YouTube. They're not teaching them about having a job, how to, about stocks and bonds. They're not teaching them about being a father, a mother. They're not teaching them anything. The kids are just really raising themselves, and it just reminds me so much of the way that I grew up. I wasn't raised. I just grew up. Mm-hmm. So it's like, how do you really, I just grew up. I wasn't raised. No one didn't teach me anything. So luckily I had a couple mentors that I would, that would show me different things along the way. And, I had a sister too. Her name's Ariel Lee. And we shared the same bed together. And I watched her go to college, and I watched her become successful. And I'm like, wow, if she could do it and we shared the same bed together, then I can too. So just having somebody show you something different, it gives you a perspective of, I can do this, or this can be me one day. Mm-hmm. It gives you something to look forward to. So I used to watch the Cosby Show, and I would look like, man, when I get older, I want a family like that one day. So I had already had in my mind that what a family looks like. But this day and age, we don't really have Cosby shows or any thing that shows Black love and Black wholeness and Black familyness. It shows Blacks are divided. It shows violence. It shows love and hip hop. It shows how horrible our relationships are. It shows how our women are it shows the ghetto part of our women, and it puts it on air as if this is the cool way to be a woman or a cool way to be a man, and it just it tears our community down, and it does more harm than it does good.
Stan, you want to respond? Because actually that question was really for you, but he kind of answered it. So I just want to hear what you have to say.
His answer was, I agree with him 100%. Because if you like he said in the beginning, if you know better,
You do
you
better.
you can do better.
You can do better.
So the problem is, how do you get the individual to know? Yeah, you can change your mind if you have something to change your mind to.
Right.
So, it's like you're standing in the middle of the water on a pole. Do you just want to stand there? But if you don't know where to jump to,
right,
what can you do? So if you have mentors, if you have people who care, if you have someone who wants to take the time out of their, whatever, to help you, yeah,
it can happen.
It can absolutely happen.
Okay.
It does happen. But as he mentions, for in a large degree, the system is set up to deliver exactly what it's doing. There's very little intention on helping us. And individuals such as our guests who choose to do so doesn't get the resources that he needs to make sweeping change. If he were given the resources he needs, he could turn the whole city around.
Right.
Literally. It's not impossible. It is probable if given the right resources. And people will quibble over the money. Well, I don't know if they should get that kind of money. All those kinds of things. Well, someone's getting the money. The money that people are getting is not effective. The people in the programs that get the most money are the ones that don't deliver.
Oh, okay.
Right.
There's plenty of money, and money's being spent, but it's not being spent on the right things.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Right. So again, when you get the money, you still have to know how to utilize it correctly.
It's not a matter of utilizing the money correctly.
It's not?
It's a matter of putting the money in what you know works.
Okay.
They know what works. It's quantifiable. You can look and see the results. I would, folk gonna get mad at me. I would suggest that the one place we know that gets the most funding and delivers the worst product would be the schools.
Oh, okay.
I mean, but a program like his that intervenes, changes, and delivers a whole new human being doesn't get any money.
Well,
Absolutely.
I don't want to turn it totally into an educational funding thing, but I was always told that even the schools who receives a big sum of the money, it doesn't really go to the student. It somehow gets caught up into the administration.
It doesn't matter where the money goes. It matters what's delivered.
Oh.
What's the end product? His program is working.
Right. He just doesn't get enough funding, as you said.
Well, if he had more resource, then he could deliver more.
Absolutely.
Well, Brendan, when you're trying to advocate for more funding and more resources, what is some of the resistance that you're running up against that's making it difficult for you to get what you really need to continue making a better difference?
Well, to be honest with you, I think it's all politics. Because people want to say that, hey, we support that you're doing well, but just think about it. If I got more funding and I was able to effectively help change more lives, then that means no one will be, not that many people will be going to jail. And when people go to jail, they get paid off of every inmate, so they're still a business. So it's almost like people don't only want you to do but so good if you're a program that's really working. But if you're a program that's just say, hey, I want these people to play basketball and football, but you're really not educating the young adult's mind to help them to change wholly, not just giving them a safe place to play basketball and play football, and then when they go home, they didn't learn anything. They didn't learn how to write a resume. They didn't learn how to tie a tie. They didn't learn their Black history. They didn't learn where they come from. They didn't learn how to get a job. They didn't learn nothing.
Right.
But dribbling a ball. And we all know that, the odds of everybody that's playing dribbling a ball is not going to make it to the NBA. So, it's showing that, hey, we got a place for these kids to play. They're investing more in playgrounds than they're investing more in lives, I say. Because that's what I see. I see them create more bigger playgrounds for the kids than actually investing in the lives of our youth.
Brendan, let me ask.
And I believe that is done on purpose. That's so, if you go way back, when our lines were redlined, and we couldn't get loans if we lived in a certain zip code, and all that stuff is still happening. It's still happening today, but we are just not aware of it because we're not taught it.
Brendan, let me ask you a question. Did you? Well, first of all, the TV show The Wire, was that a realistic description of what really goes on in Baltimore? And how did you feel about that type of show showing the image of Baltimore when it was taking place?
Now, to be honest with you, I've never watched The Wire before. I never watched it. Like I was saying back when they made The Wire and stuff like that, like I was still outside on the corner. So I didn't watch too much TV growing up. I was outside on the corner selling drugs and living the street life. I didn't sit down and watch television. I remember watching one show. It was a while back. It was called The Corner, that was made about Baltimore, and that show was very realistic. It was called The Corner. I remember that show was that showed Baltimore from my point of view and the way that I was raised, from a very realistic point of view. But the show The Wire, I've never seen that one episode.
Well, The Wire basically was just about the drug trafficking and the drug dealing and the violence that goes on in Baltimore. I'm not that familiar with The Corner. I didn't actually watch The Wire that much, but just you can look at rebroadcasts and you can look at some of the famous actors, Idris Elba, who portrayed one character in The Wire. So the base of the program was just showing the whole drug dealing, drug trafficking that goes on in Baltimore, and clearly that is a major problem in the city of Baltimore. The amount of heroin overdose deaths that continues to take place. So that's just my whole point. I didn't know if you had if it was just somewhat of a realistic view, because sometimes people watch a show and the show may give you an example of what's really taking place, but sometimes it might fall a little short and it might be missing some other elements. But if you didn't really watch The Wire, then I won't really have to ask you too much more about that. But you said this other show, The Corner, was a very realistic description of Baltimore.
Yes, that was a very realistic description. And we do have a major drug problem. I run a drug treatment facility. It's called Heaven's Place. And I have 90 clients that I work with in there. And the age ranges is from 18 to about 65. So we have young and old people in there. You would really be surprised of how young it's starting. And, I may have 90 people in my program, but you go to next door, they may have 200 people in their program. And you go next door, they may have 300 people in their program. So my program is actually on a smaller scale, and I have 90 people. So if you have other programs with 500 clients and things like that, it shows you that we have a major drug problem in Baltimore.
And sometimes, Stan and Brendan, you don't really always want to air out your dirty laundry, but sometimes you have to air it out in some capacity. And if people are strung out on drugs and people are turning to other drugs now, fentanyl and other drugs just to deaden the pain, or you're addicted to this particular drug, I guess we have to do a little more than just talk about it, because Stan, you don't like to just talk about a problem. You like to be able to fix the problem. So once somebody puts something on the table to you, Stan, to say, well, we have a major drug problem, and we got to make a decision one way or the other. And you're not in favor of changing any drug policies. You're not in favor of well, you are in favor of decriminalizing drugs, but you're not in favor of legalizing.
I would decriminalize certain drugs.
Certain drugs, okay.
Right. But sometimes those are sleight of hand things. The problem, you fix the problem by fixing the person.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Not by changing the law to make it still profitable.
Okay.
If drugs weren't profitable for somebody and a whole lot of people connected to somebody, it would stop tomorrow.
Right.
But it's very profitable.
But can you fix the problem with the current drug policy the way it's set up? That's the problem. I mean, if
one with that's I think that's another topic for another day. If you consider how many states are legalizing drugs and gambling so that they can profit, that's a drug policy change.
Yes,
if you can redirect the money to the coffers of the state treasury, then they would make drug changes and then they would manage it. They're managing people's problems. It's like misery management. And as he said, it is political. These are political decisions.
Right. But Brendan, I mean, again, the money in drugs in the streets of Baltimore is valuable. So I'm saying is, if the profit margin was taken out of heroin and other drugs that exist, and the guys on the street corner, they have no ability to generate any money off of drugs because there's no money available now because we've changed the drug laws. So a person don't have to go to the guy on the street corner illegally to get the drugs. I'm saying the only thing I will say about that, and then I want to hear what you have to say. If you don't replace it with something, if a guy now all of a sudden is out of business and you've taken his livelihood away, the way he wants to make money, and that's a whole nother subject too. If you don't replace it with something, that could cause more havoc too, because now a guy might just start to rob people. It may be carjackings, and that's already taken place. So how do you feel about, let's say, taking the money out of drugs so you don't even have that avenue to even look at as a way to make money?
Well, I believe that the money have been really kind of taken out already. There's so many illegal drugs that you can do. I mean, even heroin, they replaced it with methadone, which is pure opiates. So they get the same effect. I've seen, when I was out there on the corner, you knew who the drug dealers were because we had the gold chains and we had the biggest watches. We had the best cars. Nowadays, you can see that the drug dealers actually look like the addicts because they are the addicts. They are drinking lean. They're popping Percocet, Smileys. They're doing everything that the rap songs tell them to do. And, they're wearing the same clothes for 5-6 days. And then we have those same clients coming to my program to get help. So I believe that, a lot of the money for us standing on the corner in the street, have slowed up a lot. But I feel like it didn't really make anything better because the only thing they replaced it with was legal drugs to get you the same feeling and the same highness. And now the people that was on the corner, they are now the addicts now, and they're now robbing and killing and that type of stuff now. So they only thing they replaced it with was with legal drugs so that the government could get money and profit off of it.
And then the drug treatment facility or the drug treatments or programs that you work with, are you still continuing to see a heavy caseload of people that you're dealing with?
Absolutely. I'm literally averaging about at least two people a day. 2 people a day. I see 2 people a day coming to my program. And Yeah, so it's 2 people a day coming to my program, just times two times 365, and that'll give you your number. The how many people that we see a year, and they all, they AMA eventually, especially when the weather gets like how it is, that they'll leave, because now they can be outside and they could, survive outside. So when it get cold, they'll come. But when it's hot like it is now, they'll go outside. The women prostitute to get money for drugs, and they just enjoy being in that high state of mind.
And again, like I mentioned a couple of weeks ago to your mentor, Dr. Sutton, heroin, Baltimore has one of the worst heroin problems in the country. I mean, that drug, I think, is flooded it in that particular city, and it's a cheap drug and it's a high demand. So that spells to be a bad combination when you have a high demand for something and you have a high amount of a particular drug like that, and then that drug is so cheap. So do you feel sometimes like the deck, and I know you're a very Christian, spiritual, positive person, but do you feel like sometimes the deck is just stacked up against people when you got that type of combination of what is available to people at any given moment?
No. I feel that drugs is drugs, whether it's heroin or methadone. Methadone is pure opiates. So how can I say that the drug dealer on the corner is wrong for giving a person heroin, but I won't say that the doctor is wrong for giving a person methadone. So both parties, are doing wrong. Just one is doing it wrong legally and one is doing wrong illegally, but they're both providing the people the same drugs. So in a case like that, I pray for both. I pray for the person that's getting the drugs, and I pray for the drug dealer that's on the corner that's selling them the drugs, because they clearly don't understand how it's tearing down a family and a whole generation behind. I pray for that person, that doctor that's prescribing that methadone, because they clearly understand what they're doing, but they clearly need to ask for forgiveness for killing and tearing down our community as well. They're not as lost as the boy on the corner who's just trying to get money because he doesn't know any better. They actually are they're actually awake, and they know exactly what they're doing.
All right. And Stan, again, do you have any questions or anything you want to add to the show?
There's nothing to add to what he's saying, because what he's saying is right on track. You don't need an amen choir to the truth.
You said that many times. So you're right, and everything. Brendan, what are some of the future goals and areas that you're currently working towards?
I'll say it now, and I'll say it again. I just want to save the world. And when I save the world, that gives me an edge that means that I'll never stop doing what I'm doing. Till I have no more breath in my body, I will be making an impact in the city of Baltimore and around the world. So I'll always say I'm changing the world, because the sky isn't the limit when there's Mars and there's Jupiter and things like that. So I just want to continue to save the world. I never put a top on my ceiling, and just keep going. And wherever God places me, He places me. So if you follow me on Instagram, my name on Instagram is This Is God's Work, because that's what I feel like I do. I just wake up every morning and I pray for God to just use me, whether He used my words to make somebody feel good today, or He used my hands to make somebody feel special, or He used my arms to give somebody a hug and make them feel loved. But just use me however you're going to use me, God. And then I just go from there.
Well, that's a great, inspirational, great, honest way to actually end this particular segment of the show. I definitely want to give praise to Dr. Sutton. He was the one that gave the referral to you to be a guest. Yeah. And I just want to ask you one quick question about the trip that you took, because when Dr. Sutton took you to different places throughout the country, did you have to figure out how much money that you have to pay for this thing? How much money is it going to cost me? Or was he able to kind of supplement you, if you don't mind me asking him again? Because sometimes people will tell many people, well, I want to help you. There's many things that we can do for you, but you got to come up with the money. You got to come up with the accommodations. So was that hanging over your head when you took the trips with Dr. Sutton?
No. When Dr. Sutton would take me places, he took me places as almost like his son.
Mm-hmm.
To the point where people would say, "Hey, y'all look alike. Is that your son?" And he'd say, "Yeah, sorta. It's kind of like my son."
Mm-hmm.
He's like, "This is my godson." So at the time, I was 19 years old. I didn't have any money to give him. I didn't have anything to give him, actually. And he still took me to these places, took me to Atlanta, took me to LA, took me to these different places on his dime, not on mine. He didn't, he made sure I ate. He made sure I got there and back safe, and didn't charge me anything. So, no, I didn't have to worry about anything but just showing up.
And then again, that experience and that exposure made a big difference in your life. Being able to see other places, saying things differently than what you were used to saying. So I don't think anybody should want to ever underestimate how much of an impact exposure and traveling and interacting with different things, better things on top of that, can really make a difference in changing a person's thinking and then providing a pathway to feel like you can get towards the next level.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Exposure is definitely a key, because when you grow up the way that I grew up, we didn't fly on planes. We didn't see a family to just pray with one another. And being with him and his family, it gave me exposure to see a black family pray. I was able to see women throw themselves at him, and he turned them down and let them know that he is married. That wasn't my norm. I used to see, a woman, if she got a big butt and a smile, the man saying, "Oh, I want to hit that." And I'm like, "Aren't you married? Don't you got a girl?" "Oh, I don't care. That could be my side piece." I'm used to saying, I'm like, "Oh, this my girl. This my side piece. This my third piece, fourth piece, fifth piece." So to really just see a man that's black and stood on his square, that shows a lot about his character. And to me, character is just, everybody has to make their own character. Who are you when nobody's looking? Character is when what you're saying and what you do all adds up in the line as one.
Mm-hmm.
And just be saying I'm doing this and that, and then when the camera's off, you're doing something else. So I got a chance to see his character, and his character is just, a loving husband, a loving family man with his kids, and just a down to earth person that's willing to help by any means necessary. Never turns his phone off. Always available at 2 a.m, 3 a.m, and go above and beyond for any and everybody that just needs the help. That showed me his true character, and that let me know that I can also be cool and in the right way, and also stand on by being a man of just principle and character.
Right. Well, Dr. Sutton is making great things happening. I think he definitely needs to be praised and supported. I mean, he made this networking referral is not a lot of wasted time yesterday putting this together, and I really appreciate him referring you to me. And yes, I wish you the very best of luck. And if there's anything you want to finish off saying before we end this segment, feel free to do so.
Just follow my movement. I'm on Instagram. My name is This Is God's Work on Instagram. Follow my Instagram. My Facebook page is Brendan Lee. Just follow my movement. Stay in touch with me. And when you guys come down, I would love to just bring you around to different places so I can really show you. I don't just talk about this work that I'm doing, but I actually do what I say that I'm doing. So follow my movement. Follow me on Instagram, Facebook. all social media platforms, and just stay in touch and watch me continue to grow and help our people.
All right. Likewise.
Amen.
Okay.
Well, God bless you, brother, and thank you once again for taking time out of your schedule to join us this morning. God bless you. Keep up the good work.
Thank you, King. Yes, sir.
All right.
Take care, Brendan. Okay.
Fabulous.
Yeah. Had to really put this together real quickly yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I was looking to do another show on Baltimore. I wasn't expecting to do it this soon. And it just came to be. I had to get a guest, and I just felt this would still be a good topic and a good discussion, somewhat a little bit different than a couple weeks ago, but still kind of similar in some areas. Seems like you are in agreement of many things that Brendan was saying.
Absolutely.
During the show. But again, let's let people know again what's going on throughout the country and trying to figure out, what's the best, I guess, get people that's involved doing something that's making a difference, not just saying what needs to be done. Yes, more needs to be done. His group needs to be more supportive, more supported it, but still he's trying to make a difference, not
he's doing that. He's
right.
He's lifting his end of the
bargain,
of the load,
of the load, right?
Yeah, it brings to mind something that former Mayor Eddie Perez said to me. I think it was, I want to say 2007. Yeah, it was 2007. It was the first time I ran for mayor, and we were actually in a church on Windsor Street, and he was sitting next to me, and there were several people there to speak, and he was just sitting there. He was in a reflective kind of mode, and I think it was another candidate. It was a weird thing because it wasn't like a candidates forum, but several candidates were invited to speak and to get up and speak in front of the assembled people. Anyhow, he was sitting there. He says, we don't need any more programs. He said, we got all kinds of programs in the city. We just don't need any more. He said, he looked at me. He says, if all of the churches in Hartford, if all of the men in the churches of Hartford just on their way home from work today stop at a school, go into the office, tell the principal, I want to mentor anybody, just a kid. You got a kid in here? I'd like to mentor the kid. He said Hartford's problems would change overnight.
Right.
He said we just need caring people to lift, to kind of take on the burden of being an example.
Well, you mentioned,
I'm paraphrasing with the last words, but in essence, that's what he's saying. Well,
you mentioned, that your number one goal towards your mayoral campaign, or what you would do if I'm becoming elected mayor, is to focus on the youth. You put that as your number one priority, and you're not saying it as a politically correct way of a strategy, because many people use the youth, and we've talked about this, in the past, as a scapegoat, as a way of coming across politically correct. You're going to be sympathetic when you hear the youth. People seem to want to respond givingly, or at least that's what they claim they would like to do when you hear the word "do it for the youth." Now, I still say the youth is connected to the puzzle of the whole environment. You can't separate the youth from the environment. You can't separate the youth from their home life. You can try, but if the youth are connected to a bad environment, it's dangerous for them to walk back and forth throughout their neighborhoods. Then yes, you got to focus on the youth. And I know what you're saying, Stan. That don't mean you have to do one or the other, but the environment got to be taken into consideration almost simultaneously.
That is true. Well, We'll take a short break and we'll talk about that when we come back.
Right.
All right. Morning Talk. Stick and stay. Don't go anywhere, my friends. We'll be right back.
How do you define evil? Is evil the pedophile school administrator or taxation without representation? Is it the gatekeeping community leaders who sell out the very people they were elected to fight for? Or is evil the politician that puts out lies and takes in cash? However you may classify evil, having to choose the lesser of two evils still leaves you with evil. Nowhere does this rule apply more than during an election for mayor. Choosing a candidate who is the lesser of two evils still leaves you with evil. No wonder so many people don't vote. It's time for the constituents to flip the script and vote for a mayor you can trust. My name is J.C. McCauley. I am an independent thinker, and I approve this message. I'm asking you for your vote on Tuesday, September the 12th, 2023, in the Democratic Party primary election for mayor for the city of Hartford. I, like you, am an independent thinker. So let's sit down and talk about my path to victory and why my 5-point plan for Hartford will work. Stop listening to the uninformed evil interests that tell you I can't win. For more information, visit McCauleyformayor.com. Have the courage to vote your conscience. Vote for the name you trust and know. Vote McCauley for mayor.
Hi,
My name's J.C. McCauley.
I'm Nyesha McCauley, and you're watching AccessTV.org.
Oh, yeah. Welcome back. It's Morning Talk. I'm your host, J. Stan McCauley, along with the champions of talk. There they are, Jonathan Small, Dr. Maya Bowen, Cacique, and Cleo Duke Wright. Join us every morning, 8 o'clock. Every evening, 8 o'clock for Morning Talk. Jonathan's back.
Yes.
Where were we before the break?
I was talking about the youth, and I was saying that the environment and other factors got to be taken into consideration. And, you can prioritize how you want to start something. Okay, you want to start with the youth. You want to start with politics. You want to build the 5 pinpoint plan, economics, education. It's all needed, so whatever one comes first doesn't mean that the others are not going to follow a pattern. But it's just like, you got to fight, and you're going to be committed towards what you're passionate about. I may not be passionate about history or education. I may be more passionate about economics, business, the environment. So everybody got something that they're driven by a little bit more than something else. You like media communication. I like media communication. There's a common, similarities. Some people don't probably care for the camera. Some people don't care for media. So we all got things that we're driven by more passionate than others. You're not driven by the legislative process of being a state rep or a state senator or even a city council. You're driven by more of the decision making. For you personally,
more of the executive.
The executive, right?
Yeah. Because the mayor, everyone makes decisions. Legislators make decisions, but the executive branch executes decisions that have been made already. Really, the policy implements the policy, things along that line. But as it pertains to the youth and the 5 points, they're concurrent. But you have to, it's like conveying an idea. You got to start with the first word and end with the 7th paragraph. So you have to start somewhere the start is with the youth. That's all. It's not like youth are the first, and once we get the youth underway, then we go to the second one. When we get finished that, then we go to the third. They all happen at the same time. Like when you go shopping, you shop for everything at once.
Right.
But you can put something in the cart first. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, again, there's no disagreement or no misunderstanding. I mean, about everything got to be taken into consideration, because if the youth is going to be the number one priority, what you're going to start with, and the environment has to be, put together like you're putting together a jigsaw puzzle. You're going to start with one piece, so the youth is the first piece.
Yeah.
And then the other pieces have to come together.
Well, the way it sounds when you say it that way, in order to work with the youth, we have to get the environment ready. Then when that environment, so that's a process. I don't mean it in that sense. When you make a decision on whether or not to give a tax abatement in Hartford, that decision factors in a lot of different things. But the youth are not part of that. Like, youth aren't considered when you decide, well, we're going to give this company a tax abatement. Well, we're going to award the development of X, Y, and Z to this group or that company or this concern. The youth aren't part of that. If we're going to change the hours of businesses being open all night to 2 a.m., the youth aren't part of that factor. One would like to think the youth are part of whether or not you're going to build a new school, but they're not necessarily as much the number one issue as some may think. I'm saying that the youth need to be considered in every single decision that's made in the entire city by everybody.
Right. Well,
how does it impact our youth? And that's just to adjust people's mindset that the youth are important.
Right.
Whether it's a bodega, whether it's a bus driver, whether it's a school administrator, whether it's a janitor, whether it's people, everything needs to be centered around how does this impact the youth? Because the youth are the most vulnerable and they're the most valuable entities or constituency in the city. And if you're going to consider the youth, then you consider everything else as well. So youth centered. All right. And then there's a whole priority around the youth, which is schooling, education, all those kinds of things too.
Yeah.
All right. And then communication. So this is a realignment. When you talk about my 5-point plan, it's a realignment.
Well, when I say youth and the environment and education, what I'm saying, and it might be different now the way you just broke it down, break it down. If you're talking about, okay, youth and kids got to get a good education, so you got to make that as your number one priority, that the education of what's going on in the school system got to be changed, it has to be upgraded. My point is, and maybe it's more of a problem in Baltimore than it is here locally, there's a major problem of many youth getting from their home to school in other areas of the city without being harassed or under some type of pressure. So
you're talking about in Hartford?
I'm talking about Baltimore.
Well, I can't speak.
I'm making Baltimore. A comparison. I'm not saying, I'm not really talking about, and this is probably a little bit of a problem here too, but I'm just saying, if you got a major problem of violence and other ills that's going on in your city, and
you need to fix it.
Right. But again, if you're going to tell kids you got to get a good education, and you're not saying I got to be safe to get a good education, something is wrong.
Yeah, but you fix it, Jonathan. You fix it.
Right.
If you can identify the problem, then you can isolate the solution, or extract out or come up with. Without a vision, the people perish, they say. All right. or the people perish for lack of a vision. Vision is a solution to a problem.
Well, the one solution, again, is not here, but the youth in Baltimore, the mayor feels curfews is the solution.
And that solution is not going to work.
Right. Okay.
You know, the solution, if the solution doesn't work, then it is not the solution.
Mm-hmm.
So there'll be several attempts to remedy the problem.
Mm-hmm.
Every attempt that fails should be listed on a wall as something that we don't do again.
Right.
Until one of the things we have as a remedy works. The remedy that works is the solution. The solution is a fix.
Right.
It's not like a half-hearted attempt at fixing. That's not a solution. If you're hungry and I feed you, you're no longer hungry. We have solved the problem.
So a curfew basically is not a solution. If kids are in danger and they have to be off of the streets at a certain time of the hour to provide safety, that's not a solution?
It may be suggested as a solution. The solution only is a solution if it works.
Right.
Well, if criminal-minded children are going to go out on the street anyway, how is that a solution?
Mm-hmm.
If the young people are going to break the solution, now the good kids aren't the ones that are going to be impacted by the curfew because they're going to be home anyway.
Right, right. Well, the curfew is just saying you have to be off of the streets at a certain time, and then the parents will be, or you will arrest the children or take them to.
Right. My kids will always be home.
Mm-hmm. You don't need a curfew.
I don't need a curfew. I don't need an edict from the government to tell me that my kids should be home. They're going to be home.
Right.
Period. There's no discussion, no debate, no nothing. Not because of the government, because their father and mother say, you narrow behinds will be home. It's unthinkable. So I'm suggesting that all of the parents out there whose kids will not be out there, they're not going to be impacted. The curfew is not in place for the children who are behaving. The curfew is in place for young people who are involved in criminal activity and predisposed to doing something wrong. Their parents are aware that they are out there.
Right.
So somehow now, the parents who know their kids is involved in sordid activities are going to make sure their kids stay home because they might get a fine. That stretches the outer limits of one's imagination.
Well, I don't know for sure how the track record goes with curfews, how effective a curfew can be. Your curfew is like, my parents too, grew up, you got to be in the house at a certain time. There was consequences if you weren't home. So you don't need the law enforcement to say you got to be off of the streets at a certain time. But if you got a lot of kids and a lot of parents and no parents too, Stan, homes where kids are just coming in and out on their own, doing whatever that they want to do. And Brendan mentioned that earlier, that there's a complete breakdown in many homes where kids can pretty much do anything that they want to do.
And that is unfortunate. But if the child is raising themselves, the curfew absolutely won't work.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
But the only thing that can happen is that if you're caught on the street, you will be arrested. I mean, you're not gonna if the police.
This is the same kids doing what? This is to intervene on young people who are doing wrong. Anyway.
Right.
During the daytime, right?
Right.
During the nighttime, on the block, on the corner. They could get arrested then too.
Right, right.
So threat at being arrested at night is much more effective than being arrested during the daytime selling drugs on the corner.
Well, I mean, I guess they're looking for answers. I mean, I guess sometimes people just trying to figure out, it's not the best approach.
If it works,
then
works. It's a solution.
Right. So
but I'm not going to quibble over that. My point is, solutions are remedies.
Right.
We have a problem that needs to be remedied, and that's what people should be working with.
Well, the solution, I could sit here and saying, I need more money to do certain things that I need to do. So let's figure out how I can obtain more money.
Get a job.
Get a job or get a better job.
Get a better job.
And then that's not always as simple to say you're going to get a better job that pays you.
It is simple to say. It may not be simple to implement.
Right.
But that may be the solution. One's unwillingness or the difficulty doesn't change the answer.
Mm. Yeah, but it's like what Brendan and what I asked Brendan about, okay, everybody will tell you exposure is important, is helpful, and he didn't have any money. He admitted this pretty much on his own, and Dr. Sutton came out of his own pocket to help, pay for the cost to travel, to go with him as a mentor. You used to have a student that used to, I don't know what he was doing here, but a summer program you had in your home where you had a student working or learning the operations. The student didn't have to worry about paying you for that, but it was like a volunteer service that you had provided. There is a problem sometimes when things you want to do requires money and you don't have it, and somebody got to pick up the tab.
Right, but
that is a reality, Stan.
That's a reality, Jonathan. But the reality is that someone will help them, or they need help, or they won't get the problem resolved.
Okay.
The solution is a solution.
Mm.
It's almost like saying, well, until you leave this room, you can't go out to the kitchen and eat.
Mm.
So you're going to have to leave the room if you want to eat.
Right.
But then someone says, well, what if I'm afraid to leave the room?
Mm.
What if the door is locked?
Mm.
Well, what if I get to the kitchen and there's no food?
All right.
I mean, there's no end of the hurdles that one may have to jump or that you could put in front of somebody. It doesn't change what needs to be done.
Right.
So there's a difference between what is blocking you from receiving the remedy and what the remedy is.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that sometimes in the conversations that people have, they know what needs to be done. They know what the answer is. But they let all of the things that could possibly get in the way.
Right.
You still gotta keep going.
You gotta do kind of both. You gotta realize again what the obstacles consist of, and you gotta figure a way to maneuver around it.
That's a given.
So it's not like sometimes it's even one or the other. Obviously, if Brendan is looking to go with Dr. Sutton, you're gonna have to have some money to pay for a plane ticket, pay for hotel.
Right, but you're speaking of something that is in the past at this point. It happened.
Right. But I think a lot of people would suggest that we have to look at more of these approaches. You say the youth programs, they are not effective in many cases because they're doing things that's probably not what's really I guess needed, actually. I mean, the way that they're trying to approach a problem, making sure you have a recreational center open. Okay, that's very good that you got a recreational center open. But as they mentioned, they got to be prepared to fill out a resume, prepared to job skills, other skills you got to have. So sometimes people throw Band-Aid approaches and saying, well, we got this facility here available. We'll invite the kids in and they just have a nice place to chill out for like a few hours. But the programs that are more effective are the ones that's teaching them the other areas that they need.
Right. So if you were an administrator
mm-hmm.
and someone came to you and said, Mr. Small, we have 8 programs that are being considered. Here's their track record of success. Here are the likely downsides to the program. Here are the upsides to the program.
Mm-hmm.
We need you to make a decision as to which one should get the funding. And what would you do?
Well, you fund the ones that got the proven track record.
There you go. That's the answer to the question. It's not that deep.
Mm-hmm.
It really is not that deep.
Right.
If you know the program number 6 delivers and has a proven track record, and program number 8 gets money, but it seems like there's no outcome that is in the positive, why would you then fund program number 8?
Mm-hmm.
So to the degree that there's all of these programs
Right.
that aren't delivering, stop funding them.
Right.
Redirect those funds to the ones that work.
Well, here you have Hartford Community That Cares. You have Stomp the Violence programs that's designed at dealing with youth and violence. Other areas too, but I think that's the main areas that they probably target. And then as I mentioned a couple days ago, the Mothers United Against Violence, they've been granted some money, $500,000 to, I guess, continue what they're doing and work towards areas of intervention and prevention and other methods. And the question is, I think you had maybe some issues, you didn't sound like you were against it, but it sounded like to me you had a question mark to make sure that the money don't run out, what you're going to do when the money runs out.
The sustainability of some programs is always in question, and what's the next step when you run out of money. I can't speak on the funding or the awards because I don't know anything about what was presented in order to get the funding.
Right.
So in order to speak intelligently on any of those kinds of things, you're going to have access to, what is the program? If I can't tell somebody what the program is, and how can I even begin to suggest that the funding is good or bad? I just don't know. Right. Apparently someone saw value in it, or they wouldn't have directed the funding to it.
Well, let me work on getting Congressman Larson. I mean, who better to ask than the one that provided some of the funding?
I could tell you right now, Congressman Larson is not going to come on this program.
And he's been on in the past.
He's been on in the past, but he will not come.
Okay.
In the future, or the now. So
okay.
I'm just letting you know.
I think I have I think I have a reason why, but I'm glad you confirmed that, so I don't have to put my effort out.
Right. You save yourself the effort. Congressman Larson is not going to come here and sit down and talk to you.
Okay. Well, I won't take that personally for me.
Don't take it personally.
Because he's been on before, so I won't look at that personally. But again, I mean, I will try to get maybe someone from the Mothers United Against Violence on, let them talk about it, and then see exactly what their next plans are to be. But hopefully you would like to see things get better. I mean, that's...
Who, me?
Well, people in general. I mean, if you got a problem...
Of course I want to see things get better. I mean, hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully. Well, I mean, hopefully things will get better. I mean, that's probably the better question.
I will certainly hope things get better.
Right. Resolve whatever that they're looking to resolve with, and whatever that they feel is helpful. So, support the Mothers United Against Violence. I mean, the bottom line, I think, is that they've been out there doing it for a long time with no funding. And Reverend Henry Brown and Miss Henrietta Beckman, now Deborah Davis, they've been very instrumental and very committed. And, they just got connected with Congressman Larson, went to Washington, D.C., gave a presentation at the state capitol. I think that is moving forward. I think that is gaining progress. I think, having a voice, I don't know if it's politically connections or politically clout. Is it politically clout?
It could be lots of things, Jonathan. Depends on what you're using as the metric to evaluate success. Success can be determined from many different perspectives, and so to me, as an administrator, if we're talking about leadership within city government, I'm not concerned about relationships to the degree that the relationships that one's leveraging a relationship to get a thing. I'm concerned about the problem and the solution.
Right.
I'm real black and white and linear like that. We have a problem. We need a solution.
Right.
What is the solution? Now, if the solution is built on some sort of relationship that somebody has, and that's the solution, then that's what we got to do. But I'm more interested in the fix. The fix.
Or is the solution getting the funding?
The solution is the fix. Solution and fix are one and the same. Just same thing, different words. I met Reverend Henry Brown trying to get my flat tire off the car.
Mm-hmm.
I had a problem.
Right.
I couldn't get the lug nuts off the car.
Mm-hmm.
Standing on the crowbar trying to get it off, I couldn't get my weight and force. I couldn't break the lug nuts.
Right.
Henry Brown was walking down the street. I didn't know him from Adam.
Oh.
He was on his way to the TV station, as it turned out. I didn't know that when I met him.
Mm-hmm.
He was just coming down the street. And he says, "You having a problem with your tire, little fella?"
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I said, "Yeah, I can't get the lug nuts." He's here. "Let me give you a hand." You know, Henry deep voice.
Right.
And he bam, 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 bam. There you go, little fella. That should help you out. I said, "Thank you, sir."
Mm-hmm.
And I got the tire off, changed my tire, and I was good to go.
Mm-hmm.
The solution was someone with more strength than I had to break the lug nuts.
Right.
Now, if I had a friend that I could call on the phone, well, now I can leverage that friendship. Would you come down and help me get the tire off the car? Sure, Stan.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I could have to maybe pay somebody
Right.
to come. Maybe someone has AAA. There may be a multitude of solutions.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, the deliverable is you're getting that tire off the car.
Right.
And so the how we get there is not as important as getting there. That's all I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
So, I'm not here to try and say what they did is right, wrong, or indifferent. If it pays off in the end in terms of saving lives or helps lives be better, I'm good.
Mm-hmm.
I'm good.
Yeah. Well, again, I'd rather, sometimes talk to the source. Sometimes it's good to talk a little bit, being you, but I'd rather talk to the source to find out exactly, okay, what's the next plans are going to be, how has past resources and not having funding been an issue. So let me just rather talk to someone directly.
Yeah, that's always a good thing.
Get that point across more than just speculating and everything. Just thought about something. I know you don't have cable and I don't have cable.
I do have cable.
Oh, you do have cable now?
I have cable.
Okay.
There's cable in this room.
It's not in this room?
The studio.
Oh.
We have cable in the studio.
Oh, you do? Okay.
For television purposes?
For television purposes.
Yes, we have basic. I have basic. There's basic cable. The base cable.
Is that now like the Fire Stick process?
No.
Okay.
It's Xfinity, because of course our house is internet.
Right.
But we have cable. The only place you can see the cable television is in this studio. Mm-hmm. Nowhere else in the house is there cable. We have cable. Antenna. Right.
So the whole cable, you think the cable is worth it? I guess it is worth it to you because you have it in this room. So it is worth it.
Well, I need to watch from time to time the public access channel. That's the only reason
That's the only reason why you have it, for that reason. Okay.
Yeah.
So the other formats that they have on cable, because ESPN.
I don't know. I've never had
HBO
ESPN.
Paid services.
In the past, I had HBO. I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But I went and checked out some cable sources, and you get all these different.
There's only one cable in Harvard, Xfinity.
No, but I thought.
Well, actually, there's Frontier, I think, too.
But the Fire Stick isn't cable then.
The Fire Stick is not cable. No.
Yeah, see, that's where I'm getting a little confused. People tell me that you could watch all of the cable channels with the Fire Stick, but that's not cable though.
The channels that are available on cable are available on Fire Stick, as opposed to them being cable channels.
Right.
Cable is connected to your wall.
To your wall, right.
Right. That's cable.
So the process is you get the internet in your home, and then you go get the Fire Stick. But is that legal or illegal though?
No, the Fire Stick is legal. You pay for the Fire Stick.
You pay for the Fire Stick service, or just the Fire Stick?
It's a subscription service, and then you pay for the subscription, and then you can. It's just like the internet. But you need a signal. You have to have internet to get.
To get that, yeah, that's what I was told. You just get the internet service, and then you get the Fire Stick.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't believe in this bootleg. I don't. I think there might be some. Because remember the old days, you used to be able to get cable, the bootleg systems.
Well, it's not bootleg. You're stealing it.
You're stealing it, right?
Right. Criminal.
Yeah.
That's criminal.
So you don't want to do that.
Right.
Criminal. Yeah. The old days, and I think the truck one time I saw.
Right. Folk be cable down a hallway and just tap it off, or go out there. Folk go out and plug in a line and run it to the house.
Run it to the house, yeah.
Right, those days have diminished because of the technology. But yeah, back in the old days.
So the Xfinity package is the one, they got one source where you have the telephone, the internet, and the cable television.
The full bundle, $1,000 a month.
Yeah. Well, they used to put $89. Then you add all these hidden fees and taxes.
Yeah, by the time you get there, you got like $400 cable bill.
Exactly.
$250.
Yeah, they give you this upfront small
price. You get your internet, your phone, your wireless, and your cable. You know, some people have the full package.
Mm-hmm.
You only watch one thing at a time, but they're the full package.
Right. But the price that they quote you,
that's very high.
Yeah. Well, you get a low price, that's $89, I think, in the beginning. Then you get the taxes and the other fees.
Yeah,
that
you
come
gotta
up.
Get the cable box.
The box, yeah.
Although nowadays most TVs are good for just plug it in and everything you need is right there. But
right,
they get you on the box, the rental fee, insurance. How you get done, you could have a nice pricey bill.
So cable isn't outdated though. You think cable has changed?
Cable's not outdated.
It's not outdated.
Mm-mm.
Oh, but isn't it less people subscribing to cable?
The subscriptions have gone down.
Gone down, right.
But that doesn't mean people have stopped. Originally, cable television was local antenna television.
Mm-hmm.
People that lived in the mountain areas or in the valleys, so to speak. So the television signal couldn't get over the mountain. So they would put a local antenna on top of the mountain. And then they would run a cable from the antenna to people's houses, and that was the dawn, the birth of cable television.
Mm-hmm.
Local antenna TV, yeah.
But I thought it used to be a satellite television too.
No, satellite is long after cable.
Long after cable?
Right. I mean, satellites were used to beam transmissions, but you didn't have a satellite TV at your house unless you were very wealthy. So you could have you'd have a satellite, a literal satellite outside, and you could dial in and move the satellite to the different stations and pull stuff down. We had a satellite at Hartford Public Access Television for many years. We got different things. We originally got this satellite for the Massachusetts MSET, the Massachusetts Corporation for Educational Telecommunications. MSET, yeah. And it was like distance learning. It was an experimental way to do distance learning out of Massachusetts. And I think Ted Kennedy was the real force behind that. And there were several schools in Hartford that had a satellite, and that was all part of this big thing.
Well, the Dish Network, is that satellite or that's
Dish Network is satellite, but that's a different type of satellite. It's a satellite is directed strictly at it's a little tiny antenna dish that's directed at a satellite, and it's like that's more akin to cable.
Okay.
Yeah.
And isn't like the Dish Network can be part of like you can have like a television shows, I think, like a Dish Network shows.
Well, on that satellite, there are different transponders. I'm pushing my remembrance back many years. And you there's different channels, different frequencies, and each frequency carries a different signal. So one might be ABC, NBC, ESPN. And your fee pays to like ESPN, so you get the bundle. And so the satellite network would subscribe. We get into the weeds,
and then you got
into the weeds here, but
radio too. You can have your radio can have satellite channels.
You can get a radio formatted program off of one of the satellite channels could just be audio, not video.
Mm-hmm.
And the signal is encoded and then it's decoded and passed along to a channel on your phone or your radio or somewhere in your house, and you get it.
Mm-hmm. But these things seem to be profitable, because you remember Howard Stern, he got into, I guess he has a satellite talk show sometime. He moved from the
He
normal.
went to Sirius, I think.
Sirius, right. So
They paid him lots of money because he was a big name, and the dawn of, satellite radio.
Mm-hmm.
And his massive fans followed him over.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was an investment in what they considered to be a potential future.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All these are business decisions.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So you still are driven by any new media communication opportunities? As you're running for mayor, do you think anything that you would like to see implemented towards I know what you're doing with accesstv.org network, but you have any ideas, possibly maybe WKND radio station, you would like to see that possibly changed or stay the same?
I have no thoughts on WKND radio or anything like that. Maybe WQTQ.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
WQTQ is the license is held by, I think technically the Hartford Board of Education holds that license.
Okay.
Through maybe the city, but I know the board does. Those are assets that the city has and that the Board of Education has that could be used in a very valuable way for teaching young people and also communicating to the city. But
right.
Yeah.
But I mean, like on the business, you don't feel WKND is a real profitable radio station. I mean, the
WKND.
Yeah, WKND. It's 90.
You talk about the radio station WKND.
Yes.
I'm not authorized to speak on behalf of KND and their profit margins.
Okay. But I mean, as an investment, to buy the radio station, would you look at that as a good investment? That's not a good profitable.
If I had the money, so what do you say? If I had the money, would I buy WKND?
Yeah, to see if you can turn it around, maybe make it a stronger outlet, make it something more valuable than what it currently.
I mean, there's ways to make radio work. 102.9, I think is that the station?
I believe so. They still have the AM and they have the FM version.
Right. So I mean that's that they've been able to do great things with that station there.
Mm-hmm.
Radio station's only as good as the ability to program it and to connect with audiences.
Right.
You can have if you know how to market and you know how to program content, whatever you have can work.
Right.
If you can connect it to listeners and give the listeners what they want to hear in the market in which you serve, then you can be very profitable.
Mm-hmm. And let's say, WDRC, it's not for sale, but I mean, is that a good radio station, you think? So it's a conservative type of format, though. So.
Oh, you talk about conservative talk?
Well, just buying the station. I mean, if you had a group of investors, would that be a good radio station?
The station is just a station, Jonathan. It's a license to run a beacon that sends out a signal. Now, what that signal is the difference between success and failure.
Right. Okay.
So, you can put anything you want on the station. One day it's country, the next day it's classical music or rock and roll or hillbilly music or sacred bluegrass or rock, hard rock, soft rock, acid rock, soul, R&B. I mean, you can program whatever you put on it, whatever you want.
Right.
That's the magic is what's on.
Well, I think the Breakfast Club, I know that's New York now, so that's a whole WBLS and the #1 market in the country. So looking to see a format like the Breakfast Club.
Well, the Breakfast Club's a very popular program on a very popular station in the number one market, some might say, in the world.
Right.
So, if you can have the number one station in the number one market,
right,
you can do great things.
You can do great things, yeah.
Because everyone wants to listen to it.
Right.
But you can have the number one market and the number one station and program it badly, and it goes to become the worst station in the number one market, because New York has the worst station in the number one market as well. Mm-hmm. I don't know what that worst station is, but
yeah,
you could check the Arbitron and find out. Just because you're in the number one market doesn't mean you're going to have listeners. Mm-hmm. That's if you can figure that out, you can become a very, very wealthy man.
Well, I still mean that content is still king, even though you got
content
the format.
Is king.
Mm-hmm. But I just know the way that, not to pat myself on the back, but again, if I was part of a format like that, it would make my job a lot easier to book guests, because you got a platform, and you don't get me wrong, this is a great format.
I would say that your success outstrips theirs, because you're able to pull great guests,
right,
in spite of low numbers.
Exactly.
Anyone, 7 could book. For the Breakfast Club.
Because they're coming at you to some degree.
They're coming to the Breakfast Club.
Right.
Joe Biden was on the Breakfast Club. Being on the Breakfast Club, because it's a number one program on a number one station in the number one market. Mm-hmm. Everyone wants to be there.
Everyone wants to be there, exactly.
Who wants to be on the worst station in New York? Mm-hmm. Now, if you can book guests on the worst station,
that's saying
kudos to you. Now you have the capacity, and if you could book guests on the worst station in the last market, now you're talking. That's somebody who can book a guest.
Right.
It's like sales. You don't see commercials for Bentleys on TV.
Never seen a commercial for.
They don't need commercials. People go into Bentley and buy. They know what they want when they get there. Mm-hmm. The car sells itself. Rolls Royce, they sell themselves. Lamborghini, they sell themselves. Mm-hmm. It's the car that no one wants. The Rambler.
Yeah.
Carmen Ghia.
I mean, you're still going to see like a Ford F-150. They're going to advertise, but it's the number one leading selling full-size pickup truck. But they still advertise.
But they need to sell them.
They need to sell them, right? So they don't take it for
because
granted.
People have options of other trucks. The Chevys and Dodge, Ram.
Oh, yeah.
So you have options, and so you have to sell the truck. It needs to be sold to you.
Right.
You're selling the person coming on the worst station in the worst market. So that takes a skill set.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, we all would like to see things probably a little bit differently and better. Don't get me wrong. I think you got to be realistic. Sometimes media is a business. Radio stations is a business, and it's driven by numbers still. So even though you have this idea, okay, I would like to have this format available, it still, like you said in the past, has to make mathematical sense.
It has to make mathematical sense if it is a business.
Business, right.
Right. There's only 2 reasons to broadcast: message and money. Very rarely to the two mix. Mm-hmm. Every once in a while, you get lightning in a bottle, and the message and the money are there.
Come together.
But it rarely happens. Mm-hmm. So people that are message oriented have very small audiences. Mm-hmm. Because everyone doesn't want to hear that message.
Right. But if you're in it for the profit margin.
If you're in it for profit, then you put on the station what most people want to hear. Mm-hmm. Because your capacity to make money is your ability to leverage those listeners with sellers of items that want to reach those people with their product.
Mm-hmm.
And then you become a pitch man. That's what people on TV are, pitchmen.
Right.
They pitch products, ideas, and notions.
Mm-hmm. Well, what makes WTIC stand out? I mean, that's a #1 station.
It's a 50,000 watt flamethrower.
That's the strive. That's
right.
the driven.
It is It's got the maximum power for broadcasting,
mm-hmm.
and it is as such. They leverage that with great talent.
Mm-hmm. And they have big backings too, don't they? Whoever owns WTIC, isn't that owned by CBS or some other?
I don't. It was CBS. I think it's Odyssey now.
Odyssey, okay. But I mean, that's a big giant in the industry. I would
radio's changed a lot. I don't stay up on it, you know. But the basic rules have not changed.
Okay.
Great talent
mm-hmm.
That has the capacity to keep an audience is
right.
what you need if you're talking about radio.
Mm-hmm.
How do you hold on to the audience? Is it the music that holds them? Is it the talk that holds them? Like a talk station, you have to be very good at talk.
Mm-hmm.
And not just talk, but how to weave and pull people in, always right on the edge of an answer, but never giving it.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you have all the answers, then people are not going to call or listen. So it's a very fine line, and it's nuanced. And the people who are on 50,000 watt flamethrowers are good at their job.
Mm-hmm. Well, do you feel like you've outgrown the days when you used to be a co-host with Elaine Harris, that, you know, you wouldn't feel like you need to do that anymore? Sometimes they say different time changes, different formats.
Well, it was a time and a change. Elaine and I did the show on WKND because people were complaining that, you know,
mm-hmm.
there wasn't a voice
right.
in talk. Jeff Katz used to be a radio talk show host.
Mm-hmm.
He was talking badly about Carrie Saxon Perry, and people protested the station he was on. I think it was WPOP at the time.
Mm-hmm.
He came under a lot of fire. I am a free speech absolutist, always have been, always will be.
Mm.
And so I was against him being removed from the air because that's a violation to me of one's ability to speak. And so my pushback was, rather than to get Jeff off the air, why don't we have a program that serves the needs of black people in the region?
Mm-hmm.
So that's when I went over to KND and pitched the program.
Mm-hmm.
So I would take the conservative voice and Elaine would do the liberal voice, and we would go back and forth. And that's how that program came to be.
Mm-hmm.
That way we'd have something to talk about every day, because we would argue conservative versus liberal. It was
right.
That was the whole pitch.
Mm-hmm.
And Marian Anderson at WKND liked the idea and gave us a program. Kenny Jenkins would do the engineering.
Okay.
Eventually, he would do the engineering. He wasn't the engineer. Was he the engineer to begin with? He might have been the engineer. I think he was the engineer for the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
So we volunteered.
Right.
We never made any money.
A volunteer.
Broadcasting. Not even when we were on WKND.
Mm-hmm.
And then Joe Madison came. Was
right.
it Joe Madison?
Well, Joe Madison and then Tom Pope. I think Joe Madison came first. Then I think Tom
Pope. After that was Tom Pope. Right. Joe Madison came, and it was the Joe Madison show that bumped us off the air.
Mm-hmm. Well, you was doing that during the week though. Like that was a daily.
That was a daily show. Every day we volunteered and we went in and we did the show.
Mm-hmm.
Middays with Hairston and McCauley.
Right.
Around noonish.
Yes.
Yep.
But I mean, you've kind of outgrown that stage.
And
now.
Jonathan Small called into the show then. Now he's here.
Yeah. I was just getting started. That was like in the early 90s. I probably was just getting started. You know, getting my feet wet. And then other formats on the weekend used to come on. What's on Your Mind and 59 Minutes with Ben, I think, during the week. The Urban Lead. So No, I mean, I thought sometimes you outgrow your course stand, and that format probably is just not really that needed today. I don't know if people.
Well, I don't know that it's not needed. I mean, times change.
Times change.
Yeah.
But the business side, I think that's still a need. I think if you got a good media company, it's still WTIC.
I don't necessarily know that there's a need. Can you be profitable in the business?
Okay, that's the key.
If there truly is a need, someone will fill the need and they will be successful.
Right.
There are no real black talk shows on any major radio or television that are locally,
right?
Because it can't be supported financially.
Well, that's what I mean when I say mathematically sense. You can talk about WKND and all of these different formats that would be nice to have, but
it's not supported. It's not supported. And the reason it's not supported isn't because of white people.
Mm-hmm.
White people are not necessarily clamoring to hear black worldview.
Right.
Black folk are clamoring, but then they won't support it financially.
Well, you also said that in the past that the numbers here are just too low. This is not like where you have a lot of black people in Atlanta and other markets throughout the country that urban radio can be.
This is Connecticut.
That's what I'm saying.
Right.
It's not high numbers.
Right. You want to be a successful black broadcaster, you can go Chicago, New York.
Right.
Atlanta.
Mm-hmm.
Southern places where black folk are. In mass. And where there's successful black businesses.
Mm-hmm.
They want to reach them.
Right.
Or white businesses want to reach black.
Reach them too, yeah.
Right.
Sometimes we put a tendency of everything black and white, and it's not always the case.
No. Like the news is not black or white. It's the news.
It's the news.
That's why black news stations don't do well.
Don't do well, yeah.
Right. Because the news isn't black.
Mm-hmm. Just sometimes you may have a black face, but that's about it. Like you say, you're a black person, I'm a black person.
Right. I looked in the mirror this morning, I was black.
But you still, you're still putting out a news format or information format.
Well, we put out information, this is what I like to do. I'm a free speech advocate because I like to run my mouth.
Right. And it's still needed too. I mean, I think the voices are needed to provide, an outlet.
Right. My original purpose for speaking was to spread the life-changing, life-giving, everlasting word of the Most High God.
Mm-hmm.
That Jesus is Lord now, has been, always will be, and those that call on His name shall and will be saved. That's the reason I started broadcasting.
Light Source Victory Television.
Light Source Victory Television.
Mm-hmm.
And it is always going to be the heart of why I do what I do.
Mm-hmm.
So if people are burned alive for preaching the gospel, and that is why I am a free speech advocate. So any attack on free speech is an attack on that singular message as far as I'm concerned.
Mm-hmm.
And that is that Jesus saves. So you want to talk about something that gets people upset, that gets people upset.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, you used to have both. You would have the religious format of Light Source Victory Television, and then you do other shows,
mm-hmm.
Throughout the week. So, I guess Light Source Victory Television is kind of taking a back seat at this present time. But like you say, whatever your heart is at, that's still the driving force.
Mm-hmm. We're running out of time. Right?
Yeah. Okay. Let's get. All right. The show is over.
Well, it's about to be over.
It's about to be over. Okay. Everything.
Credits are rolling.
I see that.
All right. Well, Mr. Small, great job. Great guest. Thank you, sir, as always.
All right.
All right, my friends. We'll see you next time. You all have a great rest of your day. Bye-bye.
Hey, Hartford, Connecticut, I'm talking to you.
I'm Corrine Blake, resident of Asylum Hill, and if I were the mayor of Hartford, I'd make sure that everyone in the education system knew about the community in which they work, the city in which they work. Because once you know about it, you begin to value the city and you begin to serve in that fashion. I'm really very passionate about education. I'm an early childhood educator, and so I wouldn't be doing any playing around with programming and getting help to the people who work in these areas. It has to be focused, well formatted, and supported. So that's like my biggest thing, because as my mother taught us many, many years ago in Jamaica, once you have education, that's one thing no man can take away from you. You may lose your money, you may lose your property, but once you are well educated, no one can take that from you. And if you have that, then we can build a viable city. Thank you.
Look at your city, stop, take a look around. Hey, Hartford, Connecticut, I'm talking to you. We gotta get out and vote. Vote for Stan McCauley. It's our time. We gotta rise up and take it back. Vote for Stan McCauley. Vote for Stan. You gotta vote for Stan McCauley. Vote for Stan. Vote for Stan. Oh yeah.
It's more the politics than just what your social covers. And it ain't somewhere written down in bold letters. Don't just take my word for it, do your research. Think of your future, look at your bigger picture. Suit and tie, clean up, unity for the righteous. Plotting on action, hands on access. With a light source vision, door to door knocking. Guerrilla style marketing, brainstorm as a collective. Real neighborhood suggestions. Only we know what it is where we living. To make real life decisions. Move on facts, make it manifest back.
You gotta vote for Stan McCauley. Vote for Stan. Vote for Stan. Vote for Stan. Oh yeah. Look at your city. Stop. Take a look around. Is opportunity flow into your house? Are you working? Wait, can you save some money? And is your neighborhood safe? Or is it a homicide every night? Stand.
My name is Marlon E. Styler Sr. Many of you may know me as the two-time welterweight champion of the world. I'm here to tell you that Democrat J. Stan McCauley, as our next mayor, will fight for you until the last bell. Help me throw a knockout punch. Go out and vote for Stan the Man.
My name is J. Stan McCauley, and I approve this message.